Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, sir. How are you doing this Thursday evening?
Doing fine. I'm just doing fine.
Good. Well, happy early birthday. I know. I told you that offline, but just wanted to say it here too. So hope you.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Insert awkward pause here, and moving on into other headlines. Yes, my birthday is coming up, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about a bunch of stuff. I don't even know where to begin with this news because you just like randomly put on a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm like, oh,
hey, it was a lot. It went from like obviously we had the trailers and stuff, Super Bowl night, and then I guess the Television Critics Association had several networks meeting this week, like as far as Paramount, and I think FX was today. So, it was just and there was just several things just happened to drop. So it's been a while since I did the laundry list of news, but this is one of those weeks where there's actually a lot of stuff popping. So I figured, hey, let's talk about it.
Well, if we're gonna start with the laundry list, then let's do the colors first, which is just like a slew of release dates, endings of shows, and all of that stuff. And because the fourth season is gonna drop tomorrow, I'll start with Marvelous Mrs. Maizel. Right before they dropped the fourth season, it has been announced that it has been renewed for a fifth and final season. So, as per usual right now, with all of these shows returning, this is me saying, where did we leave off with Mrs. Maizel?
Yeah.
I vaguely remember, but not really.
I had the exact same thing. The only reason why, actually, it was when I was reading about the renewal for season 5 was when I realized, like, oh yeah, the show ended with her back to basically where she started.
Right. And I think almost literally, because I feel like she woke up married to her husband again.
Yeah, I know she got like
previous season. I don't know.
That was the previous, but no, this one she was, because the show was spent a lot of time in Europe, and then she was doing the tour with Shai Baldwin, right? And she like did a show at the Apollo Theater in New York, and almost outed him, outed him.
I remember all of that.
Yeah, but I didn't.
Giving away so many spoilers right now, Will. Usually
spoiler
about that.
Well, people know this is a spoiler cast. So I'm sorry if you haven't watched Mrs. Maizel and you're thinking about checking it out. I will apologize on the back end. But yes, season 4 starts tomorrow, and season 5 will be the final one.
Yep. And if you haven't watched this show, even though I don't really remember exactly how we got to where we are and where we'll begin with season 4, that pilot is still really good, worth checking out, despite all of the season 4 spoilers that Will just dropped.
Season 3. Yeah. Sorry about that. Oops.
Man. Speaking about shows ending that are critically acclaimed, Atlanta has announced that it will end with its 4th season.
Yeah. So Atlanta season 3 returns on March 25th. So a lot of things coming in March, but so this season 3 and 4 were actually written and filmed, and then of course COVID happened. So it was written right before that, and then they ended up filming seasons 3 and 4 back to back. And so as I mentioned, 3 will come into March, and then I think season 4 will drop later this year. And I was reading about it today. I guess Donald Glover was worried that people will think that season 3 is a kind of is a parody of 2020 because some of the story beats that's going to happen during that year. But he was like, honestly, we were like had written all this stuff out before the pandemic happened. So so I'm really intrigued to see what that's all going to be about when that season starts.
Definitely. In some Marvel Disney news, there are 6 shows leaving Netflix to go to Disney Plus. That are Marvel.
Not maybe go to Disney Plus, but maybe not. I don't know.
Okay, so the show notes.
No, it just says go to Disney. This just means that it could be the corporate Disney, not necessarily the various networks under that. Not the subsidiaries like Disney Plus and Hulu and all and sundry.
Okay. Okay.
Well, they could go to Disney Plus, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Parentheses, not Disney Plus might have been helpful, but whatever. I'm moving on from that headline.
Fair point. Well, it's all obviously it's all the like Jessica Jones and Punisher, Daredevil, those shows. So
right.
If
which
anybody wants to know.
Honestly, I had thought left ages ago, like pre-pandemic, but that's just me. I mean, Jessica Jones season 1 is really superb. Daredevil season 1 is really good. I think even season 3 is good of Daredevil. Well, season 2 introduces, Daredevil is just a great show. But they jumped the shark with that show, and that's all I'll say without giving any spoilers. Even though everyone who listens to us probably has seen it, except for Will, which is hilarious.
Yeah, I know, and I better hurry up because all these shows are leaving Netflix the end of this month. So I got to get on the ball here. Well, I have seen Jessica Jones and I have seen Luke Cage, but for whatever reason, Daredevil is still the big gaping hole in my Netflix Marvel show watch. So I better hop on it because they do leave Netflix at the end of this month.
Yeah. Speaking about Disney Plus, though, one show that will not be leaving that platform anytime soon and has been renewed for a second season is Loki. And it was announced that they have new directors for the next season.
Yeah. Actually, the directors who are steering the helm with Moon Knight, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, are going to be directing season 2 of Loki. So,
this, like, I will not judge how they're going to approach Loki with how they approach Moon Knight. But I wouldn't want that job after the first season of Loki, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That is a tough act to follow. I don't really recall us talking too much about the direction of the show or the directing of it. I know we commented about the writing, obviously, the performances, and the set design.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really call. That being said, overall, that's just a really damn good show. It's probably my favorite show of last year, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I know you continue that. Whenever we really talk about the Disney Plus shows of 2021, you consistently mention Loki and that finale. And I think it is safe to say, I think if we were to rank them, you would definitely put that one number 1 at this point.
Yeah, in terms of rewatchability, I think I have rewatched the first and the last episode of Loki more than any other Wandavision, if I'm being honest.
I haven't. Actually, I haven't gone back. I think I went back to rewatch. Actually, come to think of it, was Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki. I haven't gone back to rewatch WandaVision or Hawkeye at this point.
Yeah, right. Hawkeye. I will admit, an ad came up for Hawkeye, and I was like, oh yeah, that did happen. We talked about it. It's not that I forgot that it happened. It's just that it didn't stick with me to where I'm still talking about it. Like, here's another classic show we bring up all the time, Krypton.
Yep, exactly.
It all goes back to Krypton, people. Like, there are some shows that you just watch and they stick with you to the point where even if you haven't watched an episode in years, you're still like, yeah, but Krypton, they would have done it this way, and that was the correct way.
Yep. For sure. For sure.
Man. Other Netflix news, Stranger Things season 4, release date was announced. The season is broken. Oh my God. Really?
Yep. Yeah. They broke it up.
We were done with this shit of 2 volumes. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, apparently the Duffer Brothers, the reason why they did it this way is apparently they have the runtime for this upcoming season is so long that they decided to break it up into 2 volumes. So the first volume will drop Memorial Day weekend, May 27th. And then, of course, the second part of the 4th season will drop on July 1st.
Yeah, leading into the 4th of July weekend. That, capitalizing on the holidays like that, I do appreciate that because these are binges. These are binge shows. Yeah. I just worry about the number of nosebleeds 11 will have between the 2 volumes, considering how long the runtime is. And how long will, is it really that long of a runtime because you're just following the same steps from the previous season? But
never. They said we'll see. Yeah, they said they doubled the run times and stuff. So so there's a lot of. I guess they are trying to fill a lot of gaps and a lot of time. I mean, the show, I think season 3 was 2019. I mean, it's, talk about another thing that has been a while since we've watched it. So and got delayed for obvious reasons, but I guess they always had a plan for this show, which I guess will lead into our next news item regarding Stranger Things. So I guess this is part of their penultimate plan.
Yeah, because the season after this, and who knows, maybe it'll be the 5th season will be a 3-volume special with the last one debuting over Christmas weekend. Who knows? But it will definitely be the final season of the show. As much shade as we throw on Stranger Things, I do seem to remember, except for the 2nd season, with the 1st season and the third season, you and I really, the characters, minus 11 and Mikey. So all of the supporting characters, it's a good world. It takes us back. It's very nostalgic, very much like Cobra Kai is. Even though sometimes the writing is not the best, there's still this feeling of being a child watching a show like this. So I have a feeling that despite all of the shade over the years, once May 27th comes on, we'll binge it and we'll be gushing and then just throwing all the shade on 11 because
It's like these kids are in college now. How can they really be portrayed as high school students because apparently this is 6 months after I think the setting for the 4th season is 6 months after the big showdown in the food court. So we shall see
times when Will says, it's been this amount of time since that showdown in the food court, because between this show and Cobra Kai, there's always a showdown in the food court.
There's always, exactly. Hey, again, to your point, it's all about nostalgia.
There was even one in Wonder Woman 2, which is a movie nobody ever references, and I don't know why I did, but it came to my mind. I watched it. I was forced to watch that movie twice, thanks to Will.
Why are you blaming me? Uh,
Speaking about watching movies again and again, Spider-Man No Way Home is now the third highest grossing film domestically as it passes Avatar. And I
yep,
say, hats off to you, Spidey. Hats off to you.
definitely. And again, we talked about this last week with the Oscar voters and stuff, but I mean, this film probably, I mean, I don't think it's an overstatement to say how this film probably helped revitalize to the movie industry, because and they needed that shot in the arm after what we've been through the last few years. And and when you think about it, it's pretty daggone amazing that so many people in the height of like a surge still went out and still went out and watched this film. I mean, you just, on so many levels, you just got to tip your hat to them.
Right. You do. And I've never gone back and rewatched Avatar. I never want to. So I'm just glad that more movies are surpassing it, because I don't think it's warranted that high of a box.
Yeah.
I'm just happy when things and Spider-Man No Way Home, it truly does warrant that huge of a box office, just because that, like, beyond the multiverse and the cameos and the appearances, it's just a good story.
It really is.
Good story. So
it really is.
Speaking about Avengers and box offices that are huge, Kevin Feige has stated this week that Avengers Endgame was the final Avengers movie. And you know what, Feige? I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Because
I'm not either.
Things you've teased that are coming. I'm not mad.
Yeah. So he made these comments with the Eternals Assemble. Disney Plus has all these assembled shows now after these various properties air or in the theater. And so so of course, he's been dancing around it several times, and then of course, and after I think even we mentioned it after Eternals, could this be setting up another Avengers film with after Phase 4 and at some point in Phase 5 with things that they have introduced. But he was like, I think for right now, this is it. No more Avengers. I mean, of course, they'll probably have a lot of team ups, which, I mean, all those films have various characters popping in, but no grand Avenger film for now.
Yeah, I think that it definitely, you don't want to come out straight out the gate with more Avengers films, just because of how that one is a true ending of something. And they have a lot of beginnings happening right now.
Yeah.
And it's strange to say that, because a lot of the characters who with Disney Plus, who we've been seeing over the past year are characters we're familiar with, but they're, because of the events of Endgame or just the events throughout the Avengers saga, there are these other stories, and these characters find themselves on this new trajectory. And I think that's very interesting and organic. And I don't want to see an Avengers movie anytime soon. I think we got returning characters, new characters, and a whole multiverse to figure out.
Yeah, for real.
Let's it's crazy, because I, as much as I'm looking forward to Doctor Strange, in the back of my mind, I'm like, the next time we see Kang, though, is going to be an Ant-Man. So when are we going to get that movie?
Exactly.
Bring on Kang. Man, speaking about other things coming, we did, because of the Super Bowl, we did get some trailers. We got some trailers that I did watch. Them. Moon Knight. It's a good trailer. Oscar Isaac is just I hate to say it. I think he's almost gonna give us a performance that's gonna be too good for the show itself. I feel as though like towards the end of the trailer it got a little CGI like stereotypical. But just with him talking and not in the costume or anything, you're just like, oh my god, this is gonna be a great show.
Yeah.
So and like I still can't believe that voice is coming out of him because I'm like, you
I
don't
know.
sound like you. It's so
I
weird.
know. That new British accent that he is using as Stephen Grant / Mark Spector is just like, it just, yeah, you know, if I close my eyes, it's just like you said, I don't recognize, it's not that, I don't see that face, you know, even with Benedict, when he does his American accent with Stephen Strange, I still see Benedict's face, you know, but with Oscar, I don't. It's like, it truly is an amazing job that he's doing there. And I think you're right. I mean, it seems that the performance is going to overshine everything. You're going to be like, why did he, you know, if they have a situation where the script is like overly predictable or really bad or something like that, where we're all kind of like, ooh, let down, then you're going to be like, y'all are wasting this man's performance on that banal material.
Yeah. But then he's gonna make a cameo in Loki season 2, and I'm gonna be like, bravo. And then he's gonna like have a conversation with Kang down the line. I'm really like, yes, give me more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but everything I've seen about Moon Knight, I you know, again, I don't know beyond just the surface level stuff. I'm not hardly versed in this character at all. Mm-hmm. So I'm really going into this one as blank slate. So I just really have a good feeling about this upcoming series.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's coming at the very end of March. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a nice way to cap off all of the content we're getting in March. I'm glad we get another show. I mean,
yeah.
Like we said, Hawkeye, it was fine, but not really memorable. So right. I'm hoping that Moon Knight sticks a little harder. Mm-hmm. But then right afterwards, like it won't be long until Doctor Strange 2 comes out.
Yes.
Oh, okay. You know, I will every now and then. You're right, and I'm glad I listened to you when you said, Sarah, we need to watch this whole God, why am I blanking on the name?
Oh, What If?
What If? Yes.
Yes.
Which What If, like maybe the best or maybe the second, but definitely top tier episode material is the Doctor Strange episode of What If. And I don't know, had I not seen What If, how I would feel reacting to these trailers. Mm-hmm. You know, and also, even though we gave some shade to WandaVision before, having watched WandaVision, very excited because Wanda is going to play a huge part, and this, you know what, the scenes they shot with her particularly stuck out to me, where I'm like, okay, all right, what we doing here? House of M.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Are you talking about whenever Scarlet Witch and Wanda are back in Westview? That particular scene?
Yeah.
In the trailer?
Well, yeah. There's that moment. There's her talking about like comparing, like, I don't know if it's himself or it's a version of him, but just she's condemned being the villain and he's brought up to be a hero. And so they're going to do some great exploration, which is a part of WandaVision. I appreciated that there is something very fascinating about her character in this idea that she's continues to be the villain because she's so freaking powerful. But he is too. And then I saw some, like, I didn't necessarily see any Infinity Stones, but I saw some scenes where it's like, I wonder if an Infinity Stone was involved because, we saw that happen to the Guardians when they interacted in this one scene in what movie, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so where you praised, you gave me a pat on the back for what if, I got to give you a pat on the back for why trailers sometimes give away too much. Because even though part of me was like super ecstatic when I heard Patrick Stewart's voice, there was a part of me was like, damn it, why the hell did they give that away right now?
Yeah.
I was I was like, damn it. So yeah, we'll probably get the Illuminati, and and we are, and it is the multiverse. So just like we got like, again, going back to Wandavision, we did, we got, well, I don't think they can only pull the boner trick once. So I don't think, I think this will be maybe the version out of the Fox universe, Professor X.
Right.
So so there was that, but then also thinking about Loki, with the TVA and Illuminati, and just as they're walking through there with the Ultron bots, and it was just like, that I really could have done without that scene in the trailer.
Yeah. I will be honest. I didn't hear the voice for some reason. I saw some stuff, but it was everyone else freaking out about it. I'm less like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Huh. Soon as I heard it, I was like, damn it, that's Patrick Stewart. I was sitting there watching, because I was watching it real time during the game, and I was like, that what? I was like, on the one hand, I was like excited, and then I was in the first second, and then the second thing that popped in my head was Sarah Belmont was right. Mm-hmm. Sometimes trailers show too daggone much.
It's like that minute 30 marker, mm-hmm. where they start to even summarize some of the stuff they've already told you. You're just like, okay, abort. They no, get out while you can.
Yep. I mean, because that was, it was, again, that was one of the highlights. And of course, the other highlights for me were, like you said, the references back to What If. Mm-hmm. And I would bet, and you're right. I think having watched that show, definitely, if any of our listeners haven't watched that What If, go back and watch it, because I think you will get, even though I think they'll probably do enough in story exposition to fill in the blanks for people who may have not watched the various series on Disney Plus. I think as a viewer, you will gain a greater appreciation for what all is going on when those beats do happen in the film, because you've watched What If and how that all ties into the larger MCU.
Definitely. And you would recognize Patrick Stewart's voice more than I would. And I almost forgot to mention this because I skipped over it. But it was also announced this week that Star Trek cast, including Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, and Carl Urban, are returning for a fourth movie.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you bring it up, actually, but there's a good tie-in back again, everything goes back to Marvel, because Matt Shakman, who directed WandaVision, is directing this upcoming fourth Kelvin universe film.
Yeah, I feel like I knew that, and I'm glad you said
it. Yeah. So everything leads back to Marvel these days.
It always does. It always does, because it's just a marvelous world we're living in. Yep. I'm interested to see how you make a connection here, but the last bit of news that came out this week is Lord of the Rings, which also dropped a trailer, and that will drop on September 2nd on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, it's on Amazon. It's going to be a season show, so it's not just a one-off. And we talked about it before when they dropped the title, the Rings of Power. But I really enjoyed the trailer. It definitely gave me the Peter Jackson vibes as far as his take on Middle Earth. You could definitely see those influences there.
Oh yeah, you can. It was almost too much. Where like I enjoyed the movies. I haven't seen like the prequel movies or but and I'm glad that it has a September release date, because if I'm not mistaken, September is usually a slow month of content for us.
It is.
So that increases the likelihood we'll watch it. Where if you were to say like this was going to be dropping in October or November, I'd be like, yeah, we might.
Yeah. It's got to be like a gap, where there's like a drop or an event that happens like we did with the show we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, Reacher, where there's a gap in our usual slate of things we watch and review.
Yeah. Because only when there's a gap will Sarah spend a Sunday. Literally, I think maybe I started Reacher Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think you mentioned. I think you may have mentioned that you started it to me. Maybe it was Saturday. I think I got a message from you. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I finished it by Sunday because I was glad when I saw only 8 episodes instead of like 10 or something.
Yeah.
I still think it could have been an hour and a half long movie.
No.
Very easily.
Nope. I disagree. But well, yeah. Anything before we move on? I will say, even though without a gap, I will still watch Lord of the Rings. I do enjoy the Tolkien universe, and so I'm looking forward to the show, and I think Amazon's trying to get their tentpole Game of Thrones type of legacy franchise there.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, because Game of Thrones is also trying to like get the crumb of what they with their whole prequel series that I think is
true
this year as well. But
yep.
I really like that trailer. But yeah, we're gonna talk about Reacher now. Yeah, so it's fine. Like obviously I've seen worse, because I have literally started things and been like, yeah, well, I can't I give up. But for whatever reason, it was good background noise, which I paid attention to most of it, but some of it I was like, okay. And then Alan did a fine job. He kept going back and forth for me, where it felt like he wanted to be that guy we kind of know from his portrayal of Hawk, like this silent but kind of witty, and like and we're going to talk about John Cena as Peacemaker, like this guy who has some comedic timing, but he also then would just be quiet, and I don't know. If we had done the recording Monday night, I would have much better thoughts about Reacher. But like I said, I basically binged it in a day.
See,
and it's been a while.
Yeah. I watched it. So this is how you were saying how some shows stick with you,
right?
So this show actually stuck with me, and it is completely bingeable. You're right. You could do it in a weekend. I watched a couple episodes like over I guess 4 nights, or maybe 3 nights, because there may have been a week one where I did maybe 3, but in any event, so I haven't read the books, so the only reference point I had for Jack Reacher was the Tom Cruise films. So this was another place where I was going in completely blind. I've read I've heard people. I saw the buzz, I guess, the first weekend when it first dropped on Amazon and on Twitter and stuff, and talked to some follows, some people I follow and stuff who were like, oh, I was like saying really good things about the show, so they recommended it. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot because there was nothing on. I mean, the Olympics were kind of boring at that, were moving me at that point. So I was like, let me give it a shot. And I watched the first episode and I was hooked. I was like, okay, because basically Reacher is a hope, in his own words, a hobo who wanders from place to place. Basically the only thing he carries on his person is, he has one pair of clothes, a toothbrush, some cash, and then in this film he carried around a medal that we learn more about later in the series. And so so part of me was just like, dang, that's gross, but but the other part of me was just like, this is very intriguing. And he was, they start filling in the gaps where he was a military detective and and I learned later that the strong silent type, really doesn't talk. It was like basically he's like a 6'5" hulking giant with a Sherlock Holmes brain. As far as solving detectives, I guess is a way you could describe them. And so so a lot of those things that were, and I guess that's I guess what you're with Alan's portrayal. I guess some of the things that would have been in the novels would have been explored. His thought process and thinking. He had to kind of portray that on screen and adapt it to the screen. So I can see where if you're not. That it may come across as kind of flat sometimes, or not as charismatic, or trying to, just like you said, skirt that line because because we are used to seeing him portray a similar type character as far as the dry humor and stuff in Hulk.
Right.
Yeah. So I could definitely see where you're coming from that, but I think the thing about it is what really worked for this show for me was that. Not only for Reacher, but also all the supporting characters, all were really, really fleshed out very well. And it reminded me a lot of like Peacemaker in that regard too, where everybody's story I felt was given equal weight, equal justice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what really got hooked me for that series, and really. And also just the mystery aspect of it too. I mean, I do still like a lot of those mystery procedurals that some things were like, oh yeah, I saw that coming. But there were a couple points where I was just like, oh, really? They got me. So yeah, so that's the thing that really got me engaged with that show. And next thing it was like, okay, I gotta all right, come on. I was ready each night to get to the next episode because I really got hooked into the series.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason why I'm curious about a second season is because I just want to see how they do this.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't get any of these supporting characters who by the end of it, you're just like, oh, well, you and Finley were just starting to become buds, the odd couple. Come on. And you got this thing going on with Roscoe. So wait. Are you telling me second season Reacher's going to find himself in a random town, hook up with another girl, and then just leave because he's a hobo? That's what I'm curious. I'm curious about how they approach a second season, because this was a very much and I do appreciate this aspect where the season is very much like, this is a season arc. This is a story we're telling. It starts and one solid story. But what does that mean for season 2? Because they didn't necessarily leave any threads for season 2 that you can kind of tack on, even though we know he's going elsewhere now. And so I'm just curious about this because like you said, the supporting characters were good, and they were pretty good. I had my issues with a few of them. But I mean, and this also goes back to my criticism of the performance. Like in one moment he's Ray Man, and the next moment he's Peacemaker, like calling family out on his bullshit. And I'm like, no, you can't be both. You shouldn't. Like that's a bit much. Okay, you can't. I'm sorry, you can't be all everything. But yeah, and that's also not a diss on Alan Richmond necessarily, just so much of how the character was written for screen.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I could, like I said, I could totally see that, again, I think when I first started watching the series, I was that way. I could definitely see that, and so even though I haven't read any of the novels from Lee Child, I was just like, okay, let me just find out a little bit more about this character. And so I just I did the cliff notes on Wiki, and then I was like, okay, now I see it. And I know a show should be able to sustain itself without a viewer having to go to an outside source. But then again, it's killing it. It's doing super well. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes, like, 88, 89 audience score. I mean, a critic score is high as well, I think in the same range. And all the fans of the novel I've been seeing on like social media and stuff are really praising the show, because it really does in so many ways capture the source material that it was adapted from. And there were like, I think 20 some odd books. So, so they have plenty of story to tell.
27.
Yeah.
And I only know that because I did listen to Alan's interview with Michael Rosenbaum.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is another episode of Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum that everyone listening should go and immediately watch, because it is fascinating.
It really is. I think that was also a part of why I think after listening to that podcast, I was like, oh, I gotta go watch the rest. Yeah, I think it was either I watched it right before I watched the first episode, or maybe right after I watched the first episode. But I think that definitely gave me a deeper appreciation for Alan the actor, but also it did fill in some of the gaps too, I think, as far as what the character was about as well.
No, I didn't realize that, but yeah, I definitely listened to that after watching the show. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't really changed my criticism at all, but I can see how if I had listened to that before watching the show, how much more I probably would have been invested in the show of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of listening to him, some of the stuff he's gone through over the past few years, as well as just the show, knowing what the set was like with the timeline. And I do, and I mean, and I say this as obviously this show was made for people who've technically read the books, are already invested in the character. They're not necessarily made for me, even though they want to capture the attention of people who maybe are not familiar with it, just so that they expand the audience. But really, it does make me happy to know that people who already are invested in this character are going to the show, watching it, and being like, yes, that is that is what we wanted. Because and
it goes beyond just the physical attributes of the character too. I mean, it really goes into
definitely. All right, so I think that's it for Reacher, and we have a cow of the finale to talk about. Not really though. Maybe I'm just pulling my old pessimism card or anything. This finale is kind of what I thought it was going to be. It's just the penultimate episode was so good. I'm just like, this is gonna be like 30-minute fight scene and then a whole little epilogue thing, and that's pretty much what it was. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, I cannot argue about that point. You are correct. there was that, but yeah.
Like
But I still loved it. I loved it though. I mean, I just gotta say this is up this season for me is up there. It's with Doom Patrol for me. I just gotta say it.
Mhm.
I said it last week, and even after the finale, I think even more so that for me this might be my favorite DC live action content to date.
It's probably my favorite season of TV in 2022.
Okay.
It's early,
Mm-hmm.
but we have watched a lot of things lately, and
Yeah.
I say, as like from start to finish, even though this second, like, I wasn't wowed by anything that happened in the finale, it's fine, because it like, finales need to wrap up loose ends, plant
Mm-hmm.
seeds for future ones, and I think like, if you go back and binge this, the whole season works. There's
Yeah.
a full arc happening with these characters, and I think I would like the finale more if, like, I had watched it right after the penultimate.
Mm.
But it is what it is, and like, I'm not saying there's anything bad about it. I didn't really like the whole, because it felt so awkwardly timed when, and you were right last week, you brought up Goth and how technically Peacemaker was, like, cared for Goth for a
Mm-hmm.
period of time, and so because of that, she kind of prevents him from getting, like, stops trying to fight him, and then explains what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it just got a little, like, we've seen these kind of speeches, like, humans are destroying their world, politics, like, there's
Yeah.
clearly, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm like, oh God.
Yeah. I
Really?
mean, I get that. Yeah, I get that because I know, but to me, so here's the thing, and and I guess we can compare and contrast DC Marvel, thinking about where we had those speeches, because speaking of, as we talked about our Marvel shows earlier, and Falcon, thinking about Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we had that speech by Falcon in the finales, where he talks about the world affairs and racial justice and those kind of things. And I mean, clearly when James Gunn was writing Goth's scene there in the third act with Chris, with Peacemaker, it was like ripped from the headlines. I mean, it was talking about, and James, he did write this series, while we were while in quarantine. So while we were all locked down. So so there were similar threads there, and but for whatever reason, this time for me it worked better, because you had it, because of the story of that they told about Chris Smith throughout this season, and then him having to basically decide between saving the world or and being subject to the insect overlords, as Ab said, or giving people a choice. And the reason why it worked better is because Chris made that decision, like, okay, all this trauma and all the things that I've been dealing with since childhood, and they tie and they kept flashing back to the, they talked about the vow and how his ridiculous vow, to kill in the name of peace, and they kept cutting back, and then their vow as far as trying to save humanity from itself were just so ridiculous, and we saw that growth of Chris, like, and through what he been holding on to, the reasons why he came to that place. It just, that speech landed better for me than in other mediums where I've seen it, or other shows where I've seen that type of speech come from.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it didn't. Just because up until this point, there hasn't been that much about politics, about those issues. And so it kind of came out of left field, like, we're going to have the villain monologue now and also tell you why the villain thinks that they're the hero. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing. You're not going to convince me, okay? And in hearing you talk about it, I understand he had this vow, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about the Suicide Squad, he still has that vow during the Suicide Squad, and he makes some decisions in that movie that and he says, well, like, this is for peace because this is like what I'm told to do. This is my mission. This is my order. Technically, he does the same exact thing at the end of this season because the mission the whole time has been to kill the butterflies and to destroy. And so I wonder, and maybe they'll do this next season, I don't know, but I would find it more interesting, and maybe that scene would have been better for me if had it been more of that. Remember this character from Suicide Squad, he makes the decision, and then, but in contrast, after him going through all of these events, killing his father, he now decides to make a different decision. So had Peacemaker, like, he's changed, he's evolved, which technically he hasn't, in my opinion, changed that from the Peacemaker we met in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I don't think he's. Yeah, I mean, I think he's still holding on to some baggage. I mean, and I think, when we get to that final scene in the show where Augie shows up on the porch, I think he is a work in progress, and
in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And I don't really want him to change. Like, I'm also not saying that either, because I love this show and I want him and Vigilante to just, like, go on for a few seasons doing ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
So I really, in a way, I don't want him to change. I'm just saying, in terms of that villain monologue, it didn't land for me because it just didn't fit rhythmically in everything else they've been doing. It felt awkward to me.
Do you think if it maybe come either like whenever Goff first invaded Sophie?
Yeah, there should have been more breadcrumbs. It literally came out of nowhere. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we had
at some point we were gonna get the real plan.
Yeah.
But then they gave us the real plan and then some, and you're just like, oh, really? We've seen that like 5,000 times before.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, true. I mean, but I guess the thing with this series for me is, I mean, yes, James didn't, did he like tell like new revolutionary things? No. I mean, there are a lot of beats in there that are very familiar with in the genre. I mean, there were, but I think as you said earlier, this show had a story to tell, and what I appreciated about it was, okay, we're just going, this year we're just going to focus on figuring out what's going on with these butterflies. And we're going to tell this story. We're not going to do the I love the MCU and stuff, but and other shows as well, because I mean, everybody's starting to do this like thing now where we tease an upcoming villain. We tease, we tease this. We leave these little, extra credit at the end to like set up something else. It's like, no, we're just, this is a story we're going to tell. I mean, they approached it like we're just going to do one season, and this is the story we're going to put out there. And I think that's what made, and I think that's it, not having that pressure, as a viewer, and I'm sure probably as a cast and creative group, it was just they were able to freely tell a story that they wanted to tell, and it came across on the screen.
Right. Yeah. I got nothing to follow that up with other than yeah.
I mean, there were like, yeah, but I mean, there were plenty of. I mean, you're right. There were Vigilante and I mean, I could just have a whole season with just the two of them in the room. Even though I love the scene where Chris was like, yeah, don't tell me this, but yeah, you're my BFF.
Yeah, in a way, like I like the idea of just them, but I also know some of the best moments were when Diebeard got involved or at a
Oh yeah,
like they're just the way like they bounce off of the like there's a lot.
yeah, yeah. The
Good show, overall good show.
Yeah, Diebeard. Yeah, that was definitely the yeah. Whenever they went down there, I mean, that was another like, as I was saying with Reacher about how they like this show really gave all the supporting characters like super strong things to work with, and then of course, I mean, and then the ending with the Justice League showing up late, of course.
That but, I like that. It's particularly because we saw Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, like their faces, and they have lines. Like it wasn't a tease. It wasn't an Easter egg just for the sake of it. No, they went all in on that, and it was perfect. And with all of the name drops we've had this season, I do have to say that fit perfectly in the show. It could have been like, it could have easily felt tacked on or fan service, but no, just the way this show has been written, like that was consistent to me.
Yes. It wasn't Mandalorian showing up in the Book of Boba Fett. You're totally right. I mean,
bravo, Will. I didn't even think about that. I've like wiped Boba Fett from my mind, but that is an awesome reference, and that is why we need to hurry up and wrap, because he can't get better than that. Oh my god, the shade.
Hey, I'm just calling it like I see it.
Any other final thoughts about Peacemaker before we head out of here?
Oh, I'm gonna stop there. I think that's I love, other than, like I said what I said. I love this is my favorite, I think, live action DC content to date. So, but with that, I am done. I have spoken.
Today is definitely like exclamation point, because the Batman is coming soon. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK on Twitter.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Okay, please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN Nerd, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.snnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.